Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. This is take 6543 because I keep messing up these lines, or cars drive up, or something happens. So we're gonna roll with it. This is gonna be the intro. The last 3 weeks have been very busy, and as such, this episode is gonna be kind of different because I've been doing multiple things, like launching a clothing line. So if you haven't been to swords.com and got yourself some swords merch, shameless plug, then make sure you do that. We're doing free shipping to the US on orders over $75, free shipping worldwide on orders over $150. The other thing I've been doing is moving house, and that, as you guys probably know, takes a lot of energy and a lot of effort. And so I've moved from Hermosa Beach, where I was living before, all the way down to Orange County, and this is my new neighborhood, and I couldn't be more happy about it. Reason being, where I am right now is 1 block from the water. Where I live is less than a 5-minute walk from the ocean, and even more excitingly for me, there are some awesome dive sites that I can free dive right on my doorstep. And so I can hop down through the rocks and hopefully get in the water, even during quarantine, so that I can put out some fun diving content for you. But that's coming in the future. Today's episode, like I said, a little bit different because this is going to be a podcast. I went to university for journalism and media, and I've always been interested in interviewing and just hearing people's stories. And so I figured, hey, why not? We're all quarantined, why not try and do something that we can do from our homes? And so this is the first episode of the podcast. This is an interview with Billy McCarthy, the lead singer of my favorite band. And we don't really talk too much about music. We talk about travel, we talk about shaping who you are as a human being, and coming from nowhere and making it in life. So I hope you guys find this inspiring. I hope you guys enjoy this. Make yourself a cup of tea because it's a long one. Get comfy and enjoy the podcast. Well, I guess first of all, hey guys, welcome to what is, I guess, my first podcast. That's weird to say. And I'm here with my buddy Billy, and Billy is, or was, the front man. Are you still the front man of Augustines, or what's the status right now?
I think, yeah. I'm an inactive front man on a solo odyssey.
I don't want to let go. I never ever want Augustines to go away. Even if you guys go on a hibernation for 30 years, I'm still saying that you guys are going.
Yeah, man, I'm with you, bro. Yeah, 100%. Like, yeah, it's a good band. I love that band.
Yeah, so I know Billy through his music. And so to give you a bit of a backstory, when I did my internship back in, 2008, I believe, somewhere around there, 2009, I was in Seattle, and I was interning with a guy called Chase Jarvis. And Chase started his own little side gig called CJ Live, where he would get creators, artists, and it was kind of the forerunner to his new company, which is, what's it called?
Chase Jarvis Live?
No. His new company, Creative Live.
Creative Live.
So he then formed Creative Live, which is like a global teaching thing where you go online, you can learn anything. Anyway, I was watching one of the CJ Live episodes, and there was this cool sounding band called We Are Augustines. And Billy is the lead singer. And so I started listening to the music and just fell in love with it. And it's been this kind of crazy journey over the years where I've gone from fan watching the stream all the way back then to now I'm sat doing a podcast with Billy. So it's been a weird little adventure, and it's been fun to kind of follow you guys along the way. And I've seen Billy play. How many people are in the Roundhouse? How many people can you?
I think 4,000 or something.
It felt like a big venue.
Yeah. It's a really legendary place. Like for you viewers or listeners, it's basically a big subway turnaround, like a big round dome where I think trains came and they just sort of turned them around to go on a different track, and they made it a venue, and it, like, kind of all the notable acts of the 60s and 70s, like Led Zeppelin and Jimi Hendrix and people like that, all played there. So it's got like this revered place in music history, and yeah, we were lucky enough to headline there. It was great.
That gig was absolutely phenomenal. I had such a blast there. And so I've seen Billy play shows like that where he sold out these huge venues, and then I think our friendship really started when I came to one of your DIY pop-ups, wasn't it?
Yeah. And it was, I've come to know your people over the last decade. I didn't, so I've had a couple different bands. So I'm solo now, and then I was in Augustines, and then before that I was in a very DIY American indie band, really, called Pela. And I dreamt of going to Europe, and I dreamt of going to Britain, and it's been really cool to get to know you guys. So hearing your accent and meeting you in California, I like oddly where I'm from, even though I've been here for 20 years, it was super comforting. So it was a kinship.
Right. And so basically what those gigs were was you kind of saying F you to the music industry and just saying, I'm going to do this by myself. And it was a pop-up in somebody's living room where there was only, how many tickets did you have? 20, 25 or something?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I got into this place where I was doing your average, like, you know, rent a splitter van, get a tour manager, amplifiers. And I actually had a booking agent tell me once, you know, he knows a guy, there's a guy in England called Frank Turner. And he was like, you know what Frank did? Because I had just started going solo and I wasn't really quite sure what I wanted it to look like. And anyways, he's like, you know, Frank used to take trains to each of his shows. And I was like, that's really cool. But I think I was still kind of with like clenched fists holding on to the ticket sales and the trying to sell the venues out. And it was a nice experience, but it's actually so structured. 3 o'clock sound check. You walk around like a dummy, like around some Rotterdam or Texas or whatever, and you're there all day, and you're kind of like, okay, I'll go to the hotel. I don't know, and it's just like this. It's sort of a punishing kind of grueling schedule. So you're just going, and every night, we did 250 shows our first album in 1 year. So that's the kind of like volume that you're dealing with. And so when I started talking to him about the way that Frank had done it, I started thinking like, well, if you're not trying to, so what bands are always trying to do is they're always trying to kind of establish themselves, right? They're trying to like get their break or break a territory or whatever. And they'll just kind of like parachute you into, say, Australia or something, and you just keep playing. And I just thought about it like, I think I've already done that. And so I wanted to do something that was a little scary. And I had written a book at the time, and I started doing readings. It's like I do a set of music, stop, read, you know, a chapter of my book, and do another set. And people loved it. And I liked that it scared me again, because when you do this for a long time, it's another day at the I wouldn't say the office, but another stage, another town, and you want to keep yourself on your toes.
For sure, those shows that you did where you were doing the readings, I went to one of those as well back in the UK, and it was so different to anything else. I've always enjoyed music. I wouldn't say that I'm in any way like a music buff. I like songs, I like bands, I like artists. I'm not the sort of person that will be able to go deep into like music history or know all of the classic bands, and I feel bad sometimes for that. But what I found with your music is that I connected with it so much more deeply than I have with any other band. And I'm not just saying that because your internet sat in front of me. Like I'm saying it because the soul that your music has is incredible. And actually, this podcast isn't about music. This podcast is actually about travel and life experience. But I just wanted to get into a little bit about kind of our background. And after you did that show where we were in somebody's front room, we got chatting after that, and then you had another one in Temecula, and so I was like, hey, well, I'll come and take pictures for you. This was back when, before the YouTube days, right? Well, before my YouTube days. And so, yeah, and then we went to Temecula, and there was an issue with the venue being like, we were outside, and then I had to go and like run and get you an
Was that like kind of like, it was like a wine, some kind of like wine environment with a huge barn in it.
Yeah, that place was gorgeous. It was
I wanted to say that, Adam. That was another part of being drawn to the DIY stuff, was that you can't play a random wine that like, because the way that it's structured, And it's funny, as I'm saying it, this is indeed what it was. It's like there's sort of rules
Yeah.
to something as free as music. Like you can't play within 90 miles of a festival that you're playing within 60 days.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. There's like a radius clause, I guess they call it.
No
and
way.
Also, so what happens is if you say I'm playing Portland, then definitely Bend, Oregon would be off limits. Leipzig, Germany to Berlin, they get really funny about that because essentially like there's a lot of like advances. Like they'll advance you, the club will advance you a deposit, I guess, for your show. And
Right.
if that gets threatened, it all gets a little bit funny, although it's not completely said directly like that.
Right.
So another thing about the DIY show is that my feeling was that I want to play all the time. And I don't think that Berlin, London, New York, Los Angeles is really encapsulates like the music appreciating population. So I wanted to get into the interior a little more, that was very attractive to me about it.
Yeah, it was such a wild experience. Like I said, going from watching you play 4,000 people and just, you guys need to go check out a documentary that Billy has called Rise, and it's the story of Augustines, of the band. Go check it out. It's on Amazon Prime.
It's on Prime. It's on HBO.
Perfect. Yeah, go check it out. And actually, a lot of the shots, I think the thumbnail even, is taken from that show at the Roundhouse, where it's like just an ocean of audience members, and then I mean, it's such a cool looking venue. But to go from that and then see you playing in somebody's front room where I'm like this far away from you, and then just getting to hang out afterwards and have a beer and chat with you was such a weird experience for me, because obviously, you know, you were this icon. I mean, you still are, mate. You still are an icon. But like, you're the front man of my favorite band, and then all of a sudden I'm just sat having beers with you, and it was the most amazing connection. And I think that actually fits in very well with what we've been talking about privately about social media and marketing and that kind of thing, in that people are so focused on like numbers and like 1 million followers, 1 million subscribers, when actually what people should be focused on is the interaction that they have with that audience, and the way that they get to use marketing terms, the way they engage with that audience. And it's not always about having 4,000 people sat at a show, because I mean, don't get me wrong, if you can sell out 4,000 diehard fans, that's the best thing ever. But I would take 25, 50, 100 diehard fans over 1,000, like, oh, this is a cool band coming into town, because you get a lot of music tourists, I guess, that just like go, oh, cool, this band's new, and they just want to check out new bands. So yeah, it was just a lot of fun, dude, like getting to know you through that.
I think that there's something I've been talking, obviously, because we're all in lockdown. Like I've been talking to so many creatives, and a lot of people have called me and asked like what I'm up to, and just been sharing a lot, learning and listening. And I think that you get to this point where so much is coming out of you. And at this point, yeah, you're right. I've done a documentary, I've done a book, I've done multiple records. And when you do so much and so much comes out, I think as creatives, we all have to really take stock and check ourselves, because you have to have something come back in.
Yeah.
And I think that what this was so many times so newsflash for people who love music and bands, when I see everyone having fun out there, and I walking off stage and there's 1,500 people, in a cathedral in Manchester, right? I have to go get on the bus, man.
Yeah.
And I'm like seeing everyone have this great party, and maybe my heart is a little sore or bruised from whatever's going on in life. And I look and I'm like, bye, I wish I could meet you. Or you see not even celebrities or like notable like radio people or anything like that. You see very dynamic human beings out there, like dentists or writers or athletes or people who made the junior Olympic team or whatever. And like those people, I found that I felt like I had too much going out. And the more and more I did these kind of DIY shows, the more I got to participate in the conversation.
Yeah.
Right. So it wasn't just, I have a megaphone, be quiet. It's my 2-hour show.
Yeah.
That's like, I would much prefer sitting back and learning about castles, or how to make a shepherd's pie, or Texas stuff, or the history of the region that I'm playing in by way of a human being, because that's what folk is, right? It's an oral tradition. That's what bards were. They went from town to town to town, like soaking up and then telling their story, and then you go to the next place. And I just felt like I loved the tour bus is great, and there's nothing wrong with Robert Plant being a sex god and his skinny pants and shirtless and swarthy bronzen warrior. Like that is a total profile, and there's a place for that. I just felt like my thing was more about, like, I just played I did a tour of Southeast Asia in November, and I instead of just blissing out, I did a creative writing piece through the whole thing, and I talked about Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, and I got something out of it. And the same in Mexico. I went on, I actually did a show in Mexico, and I think it was the month after, and I just had so much to learn. And if you're in a tour bus and so on, people are playing video games and smoking weed and stuff, and you're like, I'm not getting anything from this.
Right. Yeah, it's a very two-dimensional appreciation of, or a two-dimensional experience. It's binary, right? You're going from here to here to here to here, and there's nothing in between that's kind of adding value.
Yeah. So and I think that it takes a lot of courage to say, I want change. I want to do something different, and I'm willing to gamble whatever kind of name I have that I've built. Like, I'm going to gamble with it right now because I need change.
Yeah, dude, it's so refreshing as well to see somebody being completely content in blazing their own trail and throwing caution to the wind and just saying, do you know what? I believe in this so strongly that I'm going to do it. And I think that's why I've always felt like I've connected with you and the music, because it's always felt so real. And I think given your upbringing and how things started out for you, you've always had to be. There's been no room for BS in your life. And so I actually just wanted you to kind of go back and give people an idea of where you came from and your journey, because one of the things that I want to get into right now is you're traveling, and because I know little bits, but I've never actually been able to sit down and have this conversation with you. So like, go back to the beginning. Like, how did life start out?
Life started out with my mother, who is sort of she's gone now, but she was a sort of a troubled Irish Catholic woman from Detroit. And she moved out to California, I think, like a lot of people in the 70s, like the Shangri-La experience. Like, people went west, and she went out there, and I think it was a kid in a candy store. She started dealing with schizophrenia, and she started doing all these drugs. And I think that when we look at like the waves of drug culture through the opium in the 20s and, morphine and stuff that soldiers were dealing with, we go into the 50s and the 60s where people were experimenting with LSD. And then into the 70s and 80s, the fringe jacket and the groovy vibes kind of wore off, and it became a coke thing, which turned into crack. And then heroin came back so strong in the 90s, if you remember. And my mother rode the crest of the wave of all those, of all the drugs, really. And so what happened was that if you are beholden to substances and you're ill, I think that what has changed in my lifetime is it was sort of looked at as a moral quandary. Like, how can you do that? But it's actually a mental illness and an addiction, like proper addiction. Right. And so people will do anything sort of to sustain themselves. So she started deteriorating, and I was living with my sister and my brother in a trailer park, and it just all fell apart. And so I went into the foster care system for years. And then in grade school, I went and lived with the family till I was about a junior in high school. So I, it's taken me years to kind of process that, but I think that going like steering it towards travel and creativity, what I realized with those things were like necessities for me. And I think that I might have proved that it's not a bourgeois or a first world thing or a wealthy thing. Like anyone can travel. Anyone can even get on a bicycle, even hitchhiking by any means necessary. Like you don't have to be stuck in your town, and you don't have to be stuck in your family, and you don't have to be stuck with your education, and you don't have to be stuck with people going nowhere fast. And I've lived in New York for 19 years, and it's in a case over here, but I've been playing the same guitar since I was 12 years old. And
Really?
I willed myself out of that situation.
Dude, that's incredible. And like you said, with travel, anyone can travel, especially if they do it the way that you did it, which at some points was hitchhiking on a train. And I'm not advocating that people hitchhike on a train, but you did, right? You jumped on a train and went
Literally,
from Seattle to...
Yeah. Again, there was no... It's funny. It's like building up the courage with anything, whether you're building up the courage to put yourself out there and do a photo exhibit or, a gallery show, or to write your first record, or it's just pushing yourself through. Like it's a process of failing and repetition. And I was starting to venture out, and there was something at the time you could go across in the 90s. You could go across America on a Greyhound bus for $99.
Really?
Yeah. And it sounds crazy, but I didn't always have even $99. And because I think that was sort of what sandbagged me for a lot of my life was that I didn't have any proper guidance, right? So I didn't really know how to work. I had behavioral issues where I didn't like authority, so I'd be kind of talking back to bosses, and I just lost jobs, and I lost the ability to kind of provide for myself. So then it became a little bit more primal. And like I said, with these little Greyhound excursions, I finally went up. I was a teenager. I would say I was 18. It happened in Seattle. I went up there with a friend of mine that was he was a Marine, and he went AWOL. Okay. It was a guy he was like my best friend in high school, Colin McGinnis. And he jumped the fence, and he ran, and he called me, and I met him, and he went up to Seattle. It sounds like a film, but he went to Seattle to collect money from a Marine that had not paid him back. And so I think he was calling me like, all right, let's go get this money.
Needed some muscle.
Yeah, so we traveled up. I think we traveled on a train to get there. And if I'm correct, I think he bought the ticket, like if I would back him up on this. And somehow we got separated from each other, and I was homeless. And, this is the era of landlines and so on. So it wasn't like I could just call people and, wire me a ticket, because my friends were all kind of degenerates anyway. So I hit the streets in Seattle and very quickly realized what that was, and if I wanted it or not, what was good about it, where I fit into that ecosystem. And I just finally got desperate enough, and I hopped a train for, 23 hours or something back to San Francisco.
No way. Where were you living at the time?
I think I was living in San Francisco.
Right.
And that was even a strange place, because that was a very adult place. You've got to kind of think about cities, kind of world-class cities are all about really nightlife, aren't they? Like they're about going to pubs and the things that we all do now. But if you can't even get into a bar, they're kind of boring.
Yeah, right. Well, what else are you going to do?
And they're expensive. So I was from a small town, moved to San Francisco, and then I moved up to a place, and that's where things really got strange, is when I moved to the California's capital called Sacramento.
So just backing up a little bit, when you and your buddy are up in Seattle and you get separated, obviously when you moved, or when you went up there with him, were you expecting to come back to where you were living in San Francisco, or was it kind of, I'll cut ties here and then we'll see what happens in Seattle?
Yeah, so I often just cut ties, because like I said, looking at it from an adult perspective, I think we can say, well, obviously you would save up money and you would maybe get someone to sublet,
Right.
and you would tell your boss, make up something and go away for a week and come back. But you're not thinking that way when you're a kid, because the longest job you've ever had is, 2.5 months.
Right.
So I definitely came out of the gates like with a serious disadvantage. And like I was saying about my mother, it was a moral quandary, or seemingly a moral quandary. So people didn't really understand her tribulations and challenges in life. And I think people didn't understand mine, because it was very much like, well, you're not going to college. Like you're a loser. And
Right.
so I had to kind of take these risks, because I was looking at my friends, and like I said, California is rife with like drugs and gangs, and this was the era of like Tupac and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So, it was when you're in like a lower income city and stuff, like it got a little crazy. There was some friends of mine's where there was drive-bys. Girls were getting pregnant. People had STDs. There was people were going to jail. I ended up in jail at one point for a week from fist fighting. Someone was trying to mug me on a train, and I fought back, and I got in trouble for it. Just stuff like that. Like I was going down a bad path. So these risks, they were packed with do or die, now or never. And I think that's maybe what got injected into the way I play music.
Right. I mean, there's definitely that. Like, you can definitely tell the way that you play music that it comes from your soul. Like, you're not singing about something because you think it's going to make a hit. You're singing about something because it has to come out of you. Like, it's almost like a purge. That's the way it feels, even just in the tone of your voice. And so, just talking a little bit about that kind of being able to cut ties and move on. Growing up, did you feel like because I guess for a lot of people that were in your position, they would just get stuck. They have like an upbringing where they didn't really have the support of their parents, so they would have to fend for themselves. You used to look after your little brother. Did you ever feel like you had to be your mother's protector, or was she not really even in the picture to protect?
I mean, when I was a child, and my intention of talking about this period of my life is really to talk about how low of a place you can start and not let that hold you back. But I used to get a grocery list, at 7 years old, and I would take our food stamps, and I'd go to the grocery store, and the checkout woman would go fill up a cart for me. She would even sell a 7-year-old at the time cartons of cigarettes for my mother, and I would walk home with the groceries as a little kid.
Wow.
And there was no supervision. I was out at 10, 11, 12 at night as like an 8-year-old, very feral, and just, I guess there was this feeling that I had to protect her. And drug people are really scary, and when you have like an open door policy for dealers and people freebasing and that kind of stuff, you're not really providing for your household anymore. So I tried my best, and then she just would go away. She would go away. She would go to jail. She would go in and out of jail. So she'd be gone for 6 months, and then get bounced around. And so I think let's talk about this in first world terms, because this is kind of a phenomenon of the first world, that if you're white, if you're Caucasian, and you watch your words and you wear clean clothes, you go undetected, that you come from anywhere compromised, right? So when I started going to the foster homes, I was definitely at new schools, and I had a chance to sort of be reborn and as like a new person, but there was stuff that you couldn't like wash off of my psyche and my emotional landscape. And so this is where the fist fights came in, and I really didn't like bullies, but all the while, I mean, it never really left me. So I remember hearing music when I was a kid, and what they did is they put me into choir at the school I was in, they put me into choir, and I think I loved it a lot more than I let on. Like I really loved music, and it started growing with like, you know, uh, records and punk rock. And so when I got to the age of like pushback in the form of music, then it was
Right.
punk. I was
That's
like
awesome.
a 12-year-old listening to punk rock, you know?
And where did you get your musical influence? Because a lot of people get that from their parents, right? Their dad listens to something, their mum listens to something. Where were you getting your inspiration from? Because the creativity that's in you is clearly just an intrinsic value. It's not something that you were taught. It's not something that that you've learnt. It's something that you've always had deep down. And these little influences just kind of helped you form that creativity and understand what it was.
That's a really good question, Adam. You know where I think that it started, man? And I'm not I'm not trying to reinforce a profile of me today, but if you go back to a kid exploring music, it came from the what I saw on the streets when I was a kid in the 80s in Santa Cruz, California. So there were surfers, there were Rastas, there was new wave people, there were skaters. So the skater kids were listening to like thrash punk. It was California, so we had like the Dead Kennedys, we had the Vandals, we had very early, there used to be a punk band, Red Hot Chili Peppers.
I've heard of them.
Yeah, they went on to do pretty well, but they were a punk band. There was a lot of skate punk, and the surfers were like really into reggae. So I have like a massive love, a lifetime love of reggae and dance hall. And so those guys, there was that. And then there was obviously being from Northern California, which is in many ways a lot more rural than other parts of California. So there was the sort of mountainous children of 60s people. So there was like the Neil Young and country records and stuff. So, you know, that's what I'm trying to say is like, you know, we have no way of knowing the chambers within ourselves and what value we actually have. It's like osmosis, like things are constantly seeping into us. So you might have so much more depth than you even know. You might have retained a lot more than you even realize, and you might have a lot more to offer that's in there somewhere that's of great value for your creative work than you have any idea of.
Yeah, because it sounds like inspiration was all around you. And I guess at the time growing up, you would never have thought, oh, this is going to influence who I am as a man. This is going to, obviously our childhood is where that shapes you, right? That makes you the person that you are. But I think that follows you through life when you surround yourself with certain things. And I think we've spoken about this before. You have to surround yourself with good people and good energy. Because you then start to evolve from that level. That becomes your baseline. And if you're kicking around with the has-beens or the will never be's, then unfortunately that's where you're going to end up. So when did you start to get the travel bug? When did you really start to want to explore? Because as I was saying earlier, you can either get stuck in that world that you're in, or you can choose to break out of it. And unfortunately, most people get stuck in that world. What do you think it was that made you go, I don't want any part of this. I want to be a better human being. I want to get out there.
You know what, man? I would like to take credit for it, but I did quite a bit to get myself out. But again, that perspective of being in that time period and not really having the perspective to realize that I was willing myself out of it with no education. I have to give credit to a teacher that I had in grade school named Ruth Ann. And she had my classmates and I recite axioms. And they were just like these little seeds that she planted. And one of them was, if you lie with dogs, you'll rise with fleas. And I remember, you know, so no matter kind of how the drugs or the kind of people going nowhere fast, I just always remember that, like, she instilled in me, I think she understood that I was troubled and she instilled in me like sort of a self-value, even though I couldn't fulfill it necessarily all the time, that I had worth, and I had like a mission, and I began to expand on that, and I chose. It could have been a table saw, and I could have been a woodworker. I could have been, who knows, philanthropy. I don't know, but I chose this Yamaha guitar, and I think I always remembered her words.
So that gave you the purpose that you then needed to get that first leg up.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they were little kind of false starts and little fails, but you know, it's kind of amazing when people have breakthroughs. And I know that you do a lot of creative work yourself, and I think we were talking about it. Like, you can be in the kitchen on Wednesday having, you know, I could have written a song which one day would be played in the Man United Stadium, you know, on the sound system, which is a cool accomplishment. But like, it could have been a Wednesday that I wrote that, and I could be in trouble for not taking the garbage out by my girlfriend. And the same with you. Like, you could have cracked some way to, you know, write code, or like figure out your new microphone, or a very new graphic style that you wanted to. And it's kind of goes unnoticed. But I think that if those things have value to you, and you just keep reinforcing that sort of, I guess that I'm talking about, like that mission. I think that those are kind of silent, valuable, completely important inner narrative to have on your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's it. Like you said, we as creatives, you never know when where your next inspiration is going to come from, and B, you never know. I mean, I just launched the clothing line, cheap plug for the brand. Go now, swords.com, get yourself a t-shirt. But you know, like, I literally lay in bed the night before I launched the brand, and I had no idea how it was going to do. But that night I'm moving boxes and stuff, and so I'm in the process of moving house right now, and this looks like it's put together. This is the only corner in my entire house that has anything in it. I'm moving today. Like, when we finish this, I'm moving, and I left this in place specifically so that I could still film some stuff. But the room behind you or that way, is just completely bare. But you know, I was that night I was moving boxes, and I was, you know, annoyed because moving around sucks and whatever. And I had no idea how the next day was going to turn out. And obviously I hoped that it would do well. And then orders started coming in, and it's been a huge success. And so, like you say, you never know. Like, you never know if you've just written your greatest hit, or if you've just done your best dissertation ever. And I think we should definitely be more... I think as creators, we should go easier on ourselves sometimes than we do, and understand that the next big thing might be just around the corner.
Absolutely. And I think we also have to look as creators that it can't always come from the control tower. Like, do not think that ideas always come from your head. They don't. You can't fucking strategize. Excuse my language. You can't strategize your way through something in a cerebral fashion. It could come from the wind blowing on your arm, and you needing a sweater, and standing in Big Sur thinking, that's coming from an external place in a sensory way. Yeah. It could come from your heart. It could come from your stomach. It isn't. I think that in a digital landscape now, we're constantly we're depleting our mental pond, because there's so much to learn with all these details. But creativity, if you're really, and I'm obviously a work in progress, but if you're really doing it well, you're using all different parts of yourself. And you and I were talking about meditation earlier. Meditation isn't sitting in yoga pants on, oming to the sunrise.
Hey, speak for yourself. I enjoy sitting in yoga pants.
Hey, bro, no disrespect. Actually, I have some gauzy pants. I don't know if I could qualify them as yoga just yet. I can't even touch my toes. But I mean, all meditation is listening and being fluid, like inside yourself. That could happen on a walk. That could happen on a motorcycle ride going 7,000 kilometers. That could happen talking to your grandmother. But it's basically nurturing like this inner place that doesn't have arms or legs or a head. It's just like a space inside yourself where you can kind of be free. And, I just got a drone, right? And we had talked about it, and I really loved your drone stuff. I've long loved drone stuff. And I saw something in my head that I wanted for my own video series, shameless plug, NYC Serenade. Yeah. I have a video series that you could find on my social media. So basically that came from somewhere. That wasn't like, how do I improve things? That's not the way you do it. It's like, sit back, let it come in, like turn your brain down a little bit and let it come in. So once that came in, I don't even know how to properly edit, but I'm doing a pretty good job because...
Dude, your stuff looks great. It really does.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying.
I mean, it comes back to that like innate creativity. And let's talk a little bit about your journal, because I think that is such a special thing for you to have and to be able to share with people. But tell people a little bit about it. Tell me more about it, because I've only seen a few pages from it, and that thing is incredible.
Thanks, man. Well, I appreciate it. Okay. So let's talk about creativity as a means. It was almost like a magic carpet. It literally, I'll show it to you in a second. It literally is probably an $18 empty journal. And
it's big, right?
It's pretty large. So I saw something recently online, and it was like guys in Ghana, right? Ghanaian guys having filled buckets up with cement with like a broomstick, using it as weights. And really, when you really are forced to make something happen, you can. You don't have to wait for your Amazon delivery to make something magnificent. And I didn't really know this, but I knew that what I was living was it was stunning, like being on a Greyhound with guys that had just gotten released from jail and listening to their story. My weird landlord that would break into my house. And
you had a landlord that would break into your house?
Yeah, he was a weird, like, gay leather guy. You know those guys that wear all the whole leather? And I lived in a barn, and he had all this, like, kind of
Wait, you lived in a barn?
I lived in a barn.
Okay, there's so many layers to this story.
I know, there's a lot. But anyways, he would break into my house and try to retrieve his furniture without asking, but he would be drunk half the time. So you would hear an intruder, and like
clad in leather, squeaking his way through.
And he called it the furry lips. He had a mustache on the top, and then he had a mirrored image of a hair mustache on the bottom. And he was like this. Dude, he had a brother that his nickname for him was Loser Flake, which was like, so this guy, so it's like rich characters. Do you know what I mean? So,
right.
And I was doing all this sort of like highly courageous stuff in the face of a lot of skepticism from my loser friends. And so I bought this. And if you are a photographer, a filmmaker, if you have your own platform, if you're a musician, hell, if you like knitting socks, the simplest things can kind of give you a platform, and no one even has to see them. It starts like kind of in here. So what this is this took me 4 years to illustrate. And when I started it, I was a high school dropout. All my friends were doing drugs, and I was probably working at like a pizza parlor at best. And where it ended up was New York City, 9/11, with my own apartment in a rock and roll band. And I went from the Middle East to the South Pacific, overland through Europe, Ireland, Great Britain, Mexico. I hitchhiked across America 3 times. I hopped trains, multiple trains, and I captured it all in this book with found objects. And it basically, this might just be my university, all in a book. So what it is.
Before you get into it, what made you want to start that? Because that's a very specific thing to challenge yourself to.
I think basically because I started seeing value in things that were peripheral and that didn't have value to the rest of society. I was enamored with this street musician that was an old street guy. He had a drug problem, but he could play Delta music. Mm-hmm. And I was in such short supply of music. This is before indie bands, or at least they weren't in my area. And I needed music so bad that I would wait. As a teenager, I would stand outside of blues clubs just to hear the music.
Right.
And I would follow around sound guys and ask if I could go learn how to do sound. And it was very much like an apprenticeship type of time in my life.
Yeah.
But like I said, the people that were getting through to me, they were not coaches, university professors, academics, or students. They were human beings that had a tumble in life and that were facing a very real reality like myself, that I didn't know if I was going to be okay in life. And I chose, you kind of inhabit strange environments when you're living that kind of life. A dropout, all your friends are gone. You're sort of shunned from your town and you're just alone. You don't have mom and dad. You're a kid with nothing. And these characters sort of spoke to me, so I just started writing it down, like what I was seeing. And I had the chutzpah to, again, like buy a one-way ticket to Europe and go on those trains and the buses and stuff. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and I couldn't believe that no one I had ever met had a passport, and no one that I had ever met had left and done anything. And I was a time where, to find out about Ireland, you'd have to go to the library.
Because your heritage is Irish, McCarthy, right?
Yeah, my mother's grandparents are from Ireland. So, I wanted to know more about that, but like there wasn't websites and swipe right and hashtags. It was like looking at a black and white photo from a dated book from the early 60s, reading very stodgy, boring paragraphs about God knows whatever you can get your hands on. It was so limited. So I did a creative writing piece recently where I called myself a strip mall Magellan. Proselytizing to the deaf. So,
amazing.
Yeah. So this is like, for example, like this is me playing in a abandoned squat in Italy. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, I can see.
And
dude, you've got the what was that called? Hairy lips, furry lips.
Furry lips.
You've got the hairy lips right there.
There's a little youngster, yeah. The old, and this is, and I was doing poetry, and this is kind of like the different countries that I was.
So this is all found stuff. This is none of you. So
this is this lesbian lady that was letting me sleep on her floor, and this was actually
where was that?
This is in Madrid, and this is a piece of wallpaper that I stared at so long at a cafe, counting my busking money, that I decided to draw it. And
it must bring back such amazing memories for you. Do you remember every page? Like, do you have a deep connection with every page in there?
Absolutely. And
keep showing them. I want to keep seeing pages.
If you were with me, you could smell it, and it like I was
on
my videos. Yeah, well, it's it smells like kind of. I would paint with toothpaste. I would paint with whiteout or house paint, and I think that I didn't realize that. There's no rules when it comes to expression. Mm-hmm. There is no rules. So sorry, I'm at a disadvantage because of the microphone. Let me see if I can move that. And so this is again, I'm like 21, and this is me living in Oakland in a total ghetto where all the gas stations and everything have bulletproof glass. And I lived in a black neighborhood with a skinhead that had swastikas tattooed all over him.
Jeez.
That had decided that the skinhead life was going nowhere, and he gave his life to Jesus. So that's the guy I lived with, and a Chinese girl.
Wow.
This is Italy, and this is New York City, and this is Spain, and it goes on and on.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a beautiful, like, your creativity. It truly inspires me. And seeing, just every page is different, but it has this like cohesive aesthetic that runs through it.
Yeah, and there, I probably wouldn't be able to nail it all. And sorry, there.
You did.
Probably wouldn't be able to sort of summarize the whole thing in one hang, but the overarching theme is this is one I did about America, which I loved, is that I was considered an absolute failure in life. Right. And like awesome. I wasn't. Like people have like tremendous value, and if you're not succeeding somewhere in your life, maybe turn within yourself and just start working in the most basic capacity, and you might break through. That's what happened here. Yeah. Do you want me to read you maybe a poem?
100%. Not only do I want you to read me a poem, but I would love for you to play something for people so they can hear what you do as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, this was 20 years ago, but this is where my head was at. Lighting cigarettes off the stove and watching my smoky little signals catch up to each one of your words, banging away at a typewriter, trying to catch up with the waves of the hot valley sidewalk. There has to be some truth in that shit. The little moments where you can see your reflection in the bus window and you can hear opera as some kind of internal soundtrack to your movie. I wish to obtain some net, so to speak, to harness this. I know if I keep writing, eventually I'll find something to show for scenes 1, 2, 3, and 4 of my time in the city. One of my favorite warm thoughts is spitting water out of my mouth into the summer sky and watching it beat up like a belt of stars transposed into daytime color. Sometimes I desperately need a handful of steering wheel to hang on to. I imagine it like a cape, an old G-ride hanging in the exhaust flying around. Sometimes I like to visualize people, for instance, playing pool with large 12-foot wings or concentric circles around them.
Dude, it's so amazing. Your way with words is incredible.
Again, society was telling me that I was absolutely worthless. And so I think that's where I began to take steps back to myself, because everything that I'd put out failed.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I mean, people's perception of making it, I think, is just so distorted these days, because
Very much.
people see you have to be a celebrity, you have to be a trillionaire, you have to be Jeff Bezos. Like, that's making it. People, they don't take joy and pride in those small victories in the beginning, and those small victories are the things that give you the momentum that lead you on to the greater victories. The day that you earned the most money busking is the day that led you to sell out Roundhouse.
Yes.
This is a path, and I think that a lot of the time people are just so focused on the big picture all the way down the line that they don't actually realize that they are killing it right now.
Yes. Hot preach, brother. Seriously, that's it.
And I think that, I certainly, what I've come to realize through my travels and through everything that's brought me up to this moment right now, where I'm living in America. I made the move away from where I grew up, from my family, from my friends. Like, that was a huge leap, and it was something where I had to make a lot of sacrifice. But actually, when I think about the things that led me here, the fact that my first ever big job came off the back of a random tweet that I did off of the back of a failed job. So I don't know if I've ever spoken to you about this, but I consider it to be the sort of best job, it's the biggest campaign. So does that mean best job? Maybe that's me now falling into that trap of that meant I made it because it was a 6-figure ad campaign. Yeah. Does that really mean it was the best job? Well, actually, no, because I've done a lot of projects that didn't earn me a penny, but I absolutely loved. But if we are just talking about headline figures, the biggest job I've ever done, the 6-figure ad campaign for Honda motorcycles, came off the back of I think I was being paid £150 to go down to London to take pictures of different folding bicycles leaning up against a curb with a brick wall behind for a very, very, very small publication that reviewed different types of commuter bicycle.
Wow, so humble.
It's like that's what I went down for, and it was pissing down with rain, so we couldn't do the shoot, so I had to go back. So I took the train an hour down to London. I got there. I literally got to the place where we were meant to be shooting, and the editor called me and said, "Sorry, mate, we can't do it. The rain, too much rain." So I was like, okay, well, I'm now in London with nothing to do. It's taken me 2 hours out of my day to get down here. What do I do? Do I just jump on a train and go back home, or do I see what happens? So I put out a tweet. Hey, any hashtag art directors in London free for a meeting? The most random, in terms of signal to noise ratio, I was adding to the noise with that tweet. But somehow that got picked up by a guy who followed me because of Chase. So we got this connection around like Chase Jarvis as well. But he had followed me since I was interning with him. And he hit me up and he was like, so first of all, I tweeted it, got onto the underground, didn't have any cell phone reception, got to the other side, got out into London Euston. I could see my train, and I checked my Twitter, and I had this message from Adam Roberts saying, yeah, I'm happy to meet, come over. So I then hightail it back across to Oxford Circus, go into this meeting, show him my portfolio, which was on an iPad. It was on just an old iPad. I have this beautiful printed leather, like very nice printed portfolio that cost me about $1,000 to get made. And all I had was the iPad that I'd been watching like Family Guy on the train. And so I go into this meeting, I'm like this drowned rat. I've got my backpack on with a light stand and a tripod, and I look like the biggest hack you've ever seen. And I walk into this huge ad agency, throw down my iPad in front of all these creative directors and just go, guys, I'm really sorry. I'm not prepared for this, but here's my work. And so they look through it, swipe through. Yeah, great, perfect. Yeah, love your stuff. Like, we'll be in touch. And I'm like, all right, cool. I'm definitely not going to hear from these guys. A week later, I get an email. Hey, Adam, we want you to pitch for this shoot for Honda motorcycles. And I was like, okay, cool. So I pitch. He writes back to me 2 hours later. Yep, we'll go for it. And that's it. That's how I got the biggest or the highest paying job of my life. And so that just echoes what you've been saying about the fact that realistically, we never know when our next big break is going to happen. We never know what it's 12 hours ahead, 2 hours ahead, So you've got to take pride in the fact that as long as you do all that you can, as long as you have that drive and that burning fire inside you to just want to be the best human being you can be in any given situation. It doesn't have to be professional. It can be anything. You never know when you might meet the love of your life, but I'll tell you when you're not going to meet her or him or non-gender specific, you will not meet them when you are being an asshole. So I think, do me a favor, mate, go that way a little bit. Other way. Perfect. Cool. Because I'm like here. So you're not going to meet them when you're being a douchebag. And so in the same way that you're never going to get ahead in work if you're not putting in the effort, if you're not doing everything you can.
I also think we need to ask ourselves the hard question. What is the difference between being satiated, happiness, and joy? So just getting through, being pretty good, and then like deeply, fundamentally and deeply like okay and good and feeling. I mean, that's what I'm always shooting for, and I don't always nail it, but I want to wake up excited. And I want to, because it doesn't, life doesn't seem like a chore. Like when you're just enveloped and filled up with it. Like that's what I'm always trying to get to, and it doesn't happen, overnight. We have to kind of build that
100%
for ourselves. Yeah.
Well, you and I are doing the whole like 6 a.m. wake up thing, right?
Yeah.
Not together, obviously.
Good morning.
Morning, Bill. But yeah, I mean, I think it's something that you have to work at. Like, I think there are probably very few people in this world that are lucky enough to wake up excited and passionate and driven every day, because that's just the way they are. Like, it's something that you work at, but it is something you can learn. Like, I don't know how you found getting up at 6 a.m., but for me, it's really, it's invigorated me a lot.
Very weird source, but because of Instagram, I had come across, I don't check his stuff out anymore, but oddly, I was very inspired by Dwayne Johnson, The Rock.
Okay.
And I'm like an indie rock dude, so like a big, weird, not very good actor, doing bad voiceovers for Disney is not usually my bag.
Right.
But for some reason, I started looking at this guy, and I just forget everything about him. The dude wakes up at 4:30, and I think that music doesn't have, when you're on the road, there's structure, but like when you're by yourself and it's up to you to pay your rent for, your home, and
Yep.
You need to figure some stuff out. And it was like kind of like the first baby steps of like, wait, because that guy he was a drug dealer at one point. His
Really?
parents,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he grew up in Hawaii. Like that guy, and I don't really care about people's work. Like I kind of care about their journey. So it was just interesting to see this dude that like went into wrestling that became the highest paid actor in the world.
Really?
Yes. So I don't know if he is any longer, but at one point he was. So this guy goes from being a dropout. He hurt his leg. I think he was playing football for the University of, he was in Miami, Hurricanes. He played on the team. He didn't get to the NFL. Anyway, his biography is really interesting to me. So then naturally, like, it wasn't my bag. So I moved on, and then Kobe Bryant died. And one thing that really came out about that guy was that he woke up at 4:30, and that he would actually, work on the mechanics of his shot and stuff like after games. Right. And sometimes people get kind of psycho. Like, I think Cristiano Ronaldo is a little like that, like maybe a little narcissism going on, or maybe didn't get a hug. Michael Jordan was, apparently like a real dick to everybody.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And a gambling, addict and stuff. But I tried it, and I just found stillness. And again, I'm not like, oming with the sunrise, no disrespect to anyone who does. But that was my kind of meditative, quiet time. And I began listening to music that it wasn't like, yeah, I want to listen to blah, blah, blah to kind of really make this morning rock. I started listening to things that challenged me. So I was listening to like Arabic stuff, or like 1920s, like, Prohibition era recordings, or, 1940s French stuff, or Calypso, or Zydeco, just things that I didn't know very well. And they were kind of pulling out of me in this meditative morning time, like enough fuel, creative fuel for me to inject into my films, inject into directing something, inject into my creative writing stories, inject into my next song, inject into my performance, inject, it was like a shopping cart. So you're, unless you're going to sit there and get off your damn phone. Those phones, man.
Oh, I know. But it's so easy to fall into the trap. It's so easy that I'll do it. You'll be in the car, right? And let's say that me and my girlfriend are going somewhere. We go pick up some food, right? We pull up. She gets out to go pick up food. The first thing I do is reach for my phone to like check Instagram.
Yeah.
It's like it's in our subconscious now, where it's just so hard to not do that. And I think, like you said, having that quiet time in the morning where, because I clearly like tea. This is my usual size mug.
Imagine that, an Englishman liking tea.
Right. The funny thing is that I'm actually drinking yerba mate, so I don't drink English tea.
South America.
Exactly, yeah. So actually, I would really like to get one of those. Is it called a gourd, or is the gourd the straw? But like it's a dried fruit that they add the traditional way to drink yerba mate. So you get like the dried fruit, you put the leaves in, you then pour in the hot water, and then you have like a metal straw with a filter in it, or obviously not metal if you're drinking it the proper way, and then you suck it up so the leaves don't come up, so the straw has a filter in it. That would be cool. Then I would be like oming with the sunrise, I think, if I got to that point. But no, that was just a regular cough. That wasn't the Rona, by the way.
My Corona, too soon?
Well, do you know what?
Soon.
I got myself a water cup, and I was like, oh, can I do that?
Yeah. Oh, I know. They've got to be like, they got to be pretty banged up at this point.
Their, what's it called? Their Google alerts for whenever Corona is mentioned, they must be blowing up right now.
It's so painful. I mean, I feel bad for the ecosystem of like jobs that they create, but like it's hard for me to completely empathize with corporations, like all the baggage fees I've gotten from airlines and just being treated like absolute dung when you're walking through JFK by all of the staff. I'm kind of like, I don't want anybody to die, obviously, but like, I think the music industry needs to be grounded. I think airplanes need to be grounded. I think politics need to be grounded. And I think we need to really take a look at everything, because if the internet is a force of good and evil, there's evil greed and capitalism and gnarly porn and human trafficking and all kind of sick, messed up, embedded cookies and people taking your information. There's that. Then there's also, I reconnected with relatives in Ireland via 23andMe, and I am able to do this with you right now. Well, who's in the middle?
Right.
Like, where's the compass? You're the damn compass. And keep in my only advice to myself, and first and foremost to everybody, is just protect that psyche, because, you're like the cartilage in a knee. Like, it can only take so much, and your thoughts, they need to rest, and these moving images and so on, like, it's like porn. It's like, what did people say about porn, right? Like, it's like, it starts normal. You're 13 looking at a Playboy. That's doing it for me. Fast forward 10 years or into the new millennium, and people are looking like, fur lips and upside down porn, upside down sex, and
I have no idea what you're talking about, Billy. I still enjoy a hustler or two.
Yeah, let's bring that back, huh? Just getting busted by your girlfriend, like, don't throw them out. Just
right, exactly. Now people are busting over being busted by their stepmoms.
I think stepmom porn is a genre.
Dude, step everything is. Like, it's ridiculous. My step auntie came over and found me cleaning the pool, and then yeah.
We took it in a weird place. It's okay.
It's fine. That's the beauty of a podcast, is it can go wherever it wants.
I like it. Off-roading.
Exactly. But getting back onto the kind of finding your own inner fire and how you can really nurture that. I think the getting up early in the morning, that's really worked for me. And it sounds like...
I would say it's enhanced my productivity by 40%.
100% agree with you. Yeah.
And when so I'm a lyricist, right? So I need to figure out the titles for everything. I do all my own graphic design. I have a Patreon page. Shameless plug.
Right. Link
William
in
McCarthy,
description.
Yeah, link. And I work my butt off, man. But it's kind of like I need to know what I have to. There has to be a pool inside myself of unless it'll get all stale and bad. Like, I need to keep it fresh, and that quiet time is that freshness. But I have this to say: we all have it. When you want your car and you go down to the dealership, you have that color in your head. When you're cooking dinner for your husband or your wife or whoever, your kids, you're being creative. When you decorate your house, you are expressing yourself. So we're always doing it, but I think people just really don't realize it.
Absolutely.
So your choice of slang words, dude, bro, homie, Holmes, like
creative choice.
It's all there. It's all there.
No, absolutely. And one of the things that I get, or the question I get the most, because I put up a thing on Instagram about getting up early, was people saying, how do you do it? Like, how do you get up so early? And I think this is something that I've always struggled to understand in others, and it's a character flaw that I have, not a character flaw that other people have, is that if people don't have the same drive and motivation that I have, I don't understand why. I'm like, why wouldn't you be a go-getter? Why wouldn't you want to do the best thing that you can possibly do? Why wouldn't you want to make the most out of any given situation? But some people, that's just in the same way that some people aren't. I'm not as creative as you are, Bill. Like, I couldn't make a journal that looked as cool as that. My pictures look like crap. And if I was painting with toothpaste, it would look like a child had done it, not even a very creative child. And so different people have different strengths that are inherently in them. I'm blessed that #blessed that my inherent skill set, I guess, is the fact that I'm very motivated and always have been. And I attribute that to my mum, who, when I was a kid, if I came back from school and I was like, Mum, I want to be an astronaut, she'd be like, okay, where's astronaut school? There was never versus, Mum, I want to be an astronaut, and her going, oh, that's a dangerous job. That, people die in space and it's very difficult to get there. So there was nothing that I could say to her that she wouldn't say, of course you can do it. Of course you can. And so I think that's what's so interesting to me, is that we're both very similar in a lot of ways, but we've both come from very different backgrounds, but we've kind of followed not the same path, but we followed the same trajectory in terms of our realization of our creative potential, our motivation and drive to better ourselves, whether that be, obviously you were coming from a real low point and you didn't want any of that. I was very lucky, and I didn't have any worries growing up, and I want to say that I feel guilty for that, but I think everybody, you shouldn't feel guilty, or you shouldn't feel that we don't choose where we're born, we don't choose who we're born to. It's potluck. And so I think stripping away any opportunity to feel guilty or to feel like you should be or shouldn't be entitled, get rid of that. You have the cards that you've been dealt with, right? And it's how you play that hand. And so, like I said, we've come from very different places, but we've both ended up realizing our creative potential in our own ways. And so I forget where I was going with this rambling point here, but I think realistically, people need to understand that there are certain traits that they have inside them that will more easily allow them to get somewhere than others. But as long as you have that desire, as long as the will, the intention is there, everything else can be learned. If you really wanted to play the trumpet, if you just would love one day to play the trumpet, but you just don't have the knack to play it, I'm pretty sure if you played it 1,000 hours, you would get there, right? Whereas some people might pick it up, and within the first hour of having lessons, they can probably play a tune, As long as the intention remains the same, the only person getting in your way is you.
That's a very unsettling thought, but it's true. It's get out of your own way, man. Funny short story. I did a performance. It's on William McCarthy, my Instagram.
Link in bio.
Yes. And I played social distanced, but a friend of mine is a horn player, and this is the beauty of innate talent. She's in Bruce Springsteen's band, and she also plays with Paul Simon and David Byrne. And I played a song with her just a few days ago. But she started playing in college. And she plays with orchestras. She plays on Broadway. Literally started playing in college. Look at Billie Eilish. Billie Eilish is like a kid.
Right, yeah. What is she now? I think she just turned 16 or 17 or something.
I don't know. I think, yeah. Well, let's call it a confident 18.
Yeah. So
her career could end, right? She could say some really foul, weird stuff, and everyone could shun her and be a pariah, and it's all over. Boom, poof. She could Lindsay Lohan, and it's all gone. But she's still not even as old as my friend who picked this thing up and became masterful. And it literally, I'm playing with her like, so, you know what the backside of Bruce Springsteen looks like because you sit behind him on stage.
Right.
And like that's how like some people are just really blessed, man.
Yeah.
And if you're not blessed, and I am not, I am not. And that's what actually I love about that book is because some of it's bad, and some of my songs have been bad, and it's okay. Like stinking up the place is kind of how you selectively start figuring out what was good about the stench and what was bad about the stench. So you got to go
Right.
fall on your face and don't sit back. I have a friend of mine, bless him. He's always working on something. Yeah, I'm working on it. I really haven't showed anybody. But I'm getting it together, and a couple people, I've here, and I'm getting, I'm just kind of working through. And it's like, bro, you got to get it out.
Yeah.
So, and don't be, don't do your Sagrada Familia or your master fresco on the ceiling of Sistine Chapel your whole life. Like, we're in an age where we're changing. I love that they're talking about kids as dual citizens of modernity and technology, and they're citizens of walking on the street drinking from a drinking fountain. So we're growing and changing, and I think that like with this change, like it's okay to put stuff out there. It ain't gonna kill you. It ain't gonna kill you. I fail all the time. I fail all the time. I was just thinking, I played Berlin, sold out solo show a couple years ago. Big room, went up there. New tour manager didn't know. Went up there, my voice was gone in 2 songs. Happens sometimes. Sometimes air conditioning in a hotel.
Yeah.
You can't open windows. Airplane, can't open windows. Van, it was cold, couldn't open a window. It just killed me. Voice gone after the second song. Broke 3 strings in 15 songs. Voice gone, guitar gone. I absolutely did not give those people their money's worth. I didn't touch their soul. I really suffered up there. And it was like, okay, didn't know the tour manager very well, so he didn't know where the strings were. It was an absolute train wreck. My second guitar strings broke. I don't know what was going on, but it was an absolute...
You were just jinxed that night.
Yeah, it was a catastrophe, a calamity. But I know better where to put my strings. I know a little bit better how to inform like new people that I work with on like where things are stored. Mm-hmm. I can use a humidifier. I can drink tea, whatever it is. But you kind of got to stub your toe to realize, what kind of shoes to wear.
As we were talking about before we went live, growth doesn't come from a place of comfort. Nobody grows just by sitting there and just bumping along the bottom or even just staying in this middle ground. Growth only comes when you push yourself. Growth comes when you move out of your small town and hitchhike across the US. Growth comes when you leave your family and everything, your whole support network behind, and move halfway across the world to live on the West Coast because you like watching the OC when you were 16. That's when growth comes, right? And I think that a lot of people don't understand that. And a lot of people, like your friend that you were saying, where he can't get out of his own way, he wants to make sure things are perfect before he's willing to like fully commit to it. And I think if you do that, nothing will happen. You'll never take that 0 and turn it into a 1. And that's the hardest thing, right? Is the 0 to 1. The 1 to 2 and the 2 to 5 million, that's easy. But the 0 to 1 is the most difficult thing. And I think people just don't seem to get that a lot of the time. And I'm guilty of it too with the YouTube thing. I came from being a commercial advertising photographer where everything had to be perfect because it was selling a product. And then I started making YouTube videos. And so everything, in my mind, everything has to be perfect because I'm putting out this product. And then I had this epiphany where I was like, wait a second. I'm spending exponentially more time creating these perfect, and I don't think any of my videos have been perfect, but you know what I mean? Trying to get this perfection in my videos that the ROI, the return on my investment of spending that time was 0. So actually, had I put a video out that wasn't as polished or didn't have this many fancy transitions or whatever that looks like, you've got to find that like middle ground where you are creating, where you are moving forward and you are moving forward at a rate that will, at a sustainable pace. And that sustainable pace will get you to where you need to be, versus not even getting off the starting line, tinkering with your race car and trying to, okay, but if I've got this on, then it's going to mean that I'm going to get there much quicker. And by the time you finish messing around with what you're doing, the other guy that just went, whatever, I'll just fucking wreck this thing until the wheels fall off it, he gets there and wins the race. And I think that's probably a crappy analogy because life isn't a race. But you know what I'm saying. If you have a goal in mind, the best way to achieve it is start right now.
You can do anything. Make origami. Doesn't matter. For example, in music, we have something we call the tour wall. And the tour wall is the midway point of a tour. It gets really hard. Okay. Your legs are tired. Your clothes are all dirty. You haven't been to a laundromat in a while. You're tired of the food that's being offered. Your friends' jokes aren't funny. When you start a tour, everyone's drinking. They're having fun. Jokes are new. There's a different crew member in the mix that's hilarious. You're feeling everybody out. The tour bus is smaller, the van or whatever, and you're just, you're invigorated by being away from home. And you hit that tour wall, and it's not that you want to leave tour, it's just hard for a while. But then you get over the pass, and then it's like, oh man, 2 more weeks of tour, let's enjoy every moment. Then it's like, wow, 3 more shows to go. God, man, I've really gotten to know you. I'm going to miss you. I really modified that set list. Like, I've added a whole outro to that thing, or I sang this a cappella. That really worked. And you kind of cruise through and hit through the finish line like, yeah, I did it. But the thing is if you never get on tour, and just to piggyback on your analogy, it's not, obviously life isn't a race, but life is definitely a trajectory. And if it's almost like we awaken the student within, because like if you don't put yourself out there, you're not going to build the floorboards of the next floor of whatever's going on for you. Yeah. So like that tour wall stuff was actually really important. Another short story. I remember being on a festival. I was in, I don't remember, Coachella, I think. And
just a small festival. I'll just catch that one for you, Bill. Here it is.
Thanks. No, I think it was because that was like, I played that during the first record, and they threw us on the main stage, and it was literally
you played main stage Coachella.
Yeah, but dude, when you're it's awesome. But in the first year, you're playing at like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Hey, it doesn't matter. You can still say you played main stage Coachella. Was that Augustines or Paler?
Yeah, Augustines. Yeah, and we were opening for Radiohead, right? Which is crazy. And so it was a mesmerizing, dazzling experience. And seeing, first you just see their road cases, it says Radiohead on it, or and you play, and it was horrible. I had to get like a drip bag because I got dehydrated. I was making guacamole for everybody, and I sliced my finger. I had stitches. I was singing. I dehydrated on stage to where I was blacking out.
Coachella is rough, dude. Like, I don't know if you've actually been to Coachella as a fan.
I haven't.
Oh, dude, I'm not gonna lie, and I'm sorry to people that love Coachella, but I thought it sucked.
Yeah,
the dust. It's like 1,000 degrees. Everybody's like packed in there. Oh no, I didn't enjoy my Coachella experience. I want to go back for Stagecoach, which should be right now, I think. But that's more my vibe.
With the moral of the story is that when we found out that we got it, and it was, so they did 2 weekends. One was Bon Iver and one was Radiohead. I think they were switching off, if I'm correct on that. Anyways, we thought that like this was the most epic stuff ever. We get up there. I have this experience where, I mean, it's fun to be on the main stage, but when it's a speckled attendance, and in my early development as a performer, I thought if I just gave it more, I would get people to start coming in. And all I did was burn myself out. And I was talking to a tour manager, and I said, you know what, man, we have to wait around all week to play next weekend here. Festivals kind of suck. and I didn't have a lot of experience 10 years ago with them. And he's like, yeah, mate, he's a British guy. Yeah, they're fucking awful. They're terrible for performers. Right. Like there's barely a sound check. You depending on all your crew and everybody to like, so you don't look like an asshole up there when you know, your instrument doesn't work because it's shorted out. You're just thrown to the wolves. And what I'm saying is, like, if I never picked up the Yamaha, if I never got the album out, if I never got signed or got up there to that, I wouldn't even know that very valuable knowledge. So anytime that I've ever had to play a festival since, I go in there kind of better for it, having kind of like, and I think it kind of grows the breadth of your knowledge for what you're passionate about. And there's nothing more frustrating than having passion for something and not knowing very fucking much about it. Excuse my language. I'm trying to direct stuff. I don't know what I'm doing half the time, and that's very frustrating. But if you can kind of have a somewhat of a mastery or a comprehensive knowledge about, it's so much more gratifying. Mic drop.
Well, look, dude, I would love for you to, I know it's not Coachella main stage, but
yes, it is.
It would be awesome if you could maybe play something just to kind of close us out here.
Absolutely, man. I'm going to take off my headphones, okay?
Absolutely, dude. I'll just talk shit about you while you can't hear me.
All right, let me see.
God, I really wish I hadn't done this with Bill. He's a real ass.
Sketchy guy. Sketchy guy. Let me see. Yeah, Coachella sucks. Does.
Just scoot that way for me a bit again. Yeah, there you go.
I'm gonna. Sorry, little mic noise. One more time. Still can't get out, weary eyes. Through the window on the street below, you're standing there, weary eyes. I ain't been around, so I fell to the ground in the dirty snow, weary eyes. You cleaned up now, and I hope it works out. Is your daughter well, weary eyes? Cold sneaks into your bones when winter comes to break your heart. And all the tree line streets don't mean anything when your world is freezing, covered in us, weary eyes, weary eyes. So when the bar sang along and we stumbled home, weary eyes, laid on the roof, drink wine and we prove we can fix ourselves, weary eyes. I'm in front of your house, could you please come out? I'm standing in my coat, weary eyes, in front of your house with a radio light in the dirty snow, weary eyes. Oh. Cold sneaks into your bones when winter comes to break your heart. Now the tree line streets don't mean anything when your world is freezing and covered in ice, weary eyes, weary eyes. Ooh. Oh.
Dude, I cannot tell you how effing awesome that is as a fan to be sat here and listen to you play that song, just you and I. Like, that is like goosebumps, literal goosebumps. That's so cool, so cool.
Well, you did the work, man. You did the work to build yourself a platform, man. And I wish you all the best with having more people and feeling more invigorated and helping other people realize their potential and you've been a lighthouse for me. Like there's stuff I ask you about that I don't completely understand. You've been really helpful. So I really appreciate your friendship, man.
Dude, a rising tide floats all boats, right? We've all got to help each other out, and yeah, we can all learn a lot from each other. We just got to shut up and listen sometimes.
Get out of our own way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on and doing this. For you guys watching, this has been so much fun for me. I hope you've enjoyed it as well, and I definitely would love to do more of these. Bill, I would love to get on another call with you and do this again sometime, because I feel like we've just scratched the surface. Like, I could talk to you for hours. I feel like there's so many unanswered questions that I still have. So maybe we can revisit this in a couple months' time and see what our challenges and our personal growths has been. Personal growths? I'm English. We literally invented this language, and I'm using phrases like personal growths. You can have them burned off. Like if you have, like it's almost like warts. I had my personal growth burned off. I'm able to sit so much better now. It's much more comfortable. No, hey man, it's a great pleasure. If anybody, I don't know how to you could visit me if I've made new friends. Come over and be a part of what I'm doing. I'm always traveling, and I'm a big motorcycle guy, and I do pretty long distances. And if you like that kind of stuff, give me a follow. Yeah, I mean, this is what I'm saying. There is just so much that we didn't even go into. So for you guys watching, we will do this again, I promise. And dude, I'll tell you what would be great is once all of this has died down, probably not the right choice of phrase there, but once this has all gone away, it would be great for us for you to come out to the West Coast, and we'll go do like a little West Coast motorcycle tour, go visit some places, play some music, film some cool stuff. Love it. Go camping. That'd be a lot of fun. But yeah, Billy's asked you very nicely. I'm going to tell you the links are in the description, and I want every single one of you watching this video right now to go and click on every single one of those links and follow Billy and support him. And also, most importantly, this will be going out this coming Tuesday. So you've got an announcement as well coming, right? Or you're not allowed to talk about that yet? No, I am. Yeah, I'm releasing music. It took me a year. I'm releasing a video and some other content that I filmed in South America, and that's coming out next Friday, but no one knows about it, so it's a little secret. I guess I leaked it. Oops. I basically spent a year on a record, and I went down to South America, Spain, and I filmed all this stuff. So I'm a photographer as well. I'm not anywhere as good as you, but there's really, if you like the tunes, come on down. Friday's your day. I'm so excited. I'm so excited about that. So yeah, guys, make sure you go and support Billy and everything he does. As you can see, he's an awesome guy, and dude, I'm so proud and privileged and honored to be able to call you a friend now. And yeah, I'm excited to see where your journey is going to continue to take you, and get to hang out with you some more. Keep up the good work, buddy. Thanks, dude. All right, guys. Well, thank you for watching this. Make sure you click the like button, subscribe, go follow Billy's stuff. Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this. Obviously, this is much longer form than usual. But yeah, tell me what you think. And if you'd like to see more, then I will absolutely do more now that I have a professional mic. This mic stand is going. I've got something nicer, so I apologize that it looks like this. But yeah, we're going in. I like this podcast thing. I love talking, so let's do it. Bye, everyone. Right. Take it easy. Bill, thank you, sir. You're an absolute star. Hey, love it, dude. I'll be in touch. Be good, man. See you, mate. Thank you. Bye.